The dark side of Indonesia. Mysteries, rituals, and invisible demons of the archipelago. Stunning scenes of terraced rice fields, Hindu temples immersed in mist, paradisiacal beaches in Bali, and warm smiles from the archipelago's peoples populate the imagination of those who think of Indonesia. On the international tourism circuit, the country is sold as a refuge of gentle spirituality, religious diversity, and peaceful coexistence between Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and Christians. Tourists see only the colorful folklore of daily offerings, the hypnotic music of gamelan, traditional dances, and exotic temples. But there exists in Indonesia that guides don't show, that the government itself tries to bury in shadow, and that many prefer to forget so as not to break the tropical illusion. A country where black magic still dictates rules in villages, where bloody sacrifices happen behind the scenes of the most acclaimed tourism festivals, where hungry spirits and ancient demons share territory with Allah, Shiva, and Jesus Christ. A nation of 270 million souls where traces of primitive animism, Islamic syncretism, and occult rituals survive and adapt to technology and modern life. From which city are you watching this video? Tell us in the comments where you're speaking from, because after this investigation into Indonesian spiritual darkness, you'll understand. Not everything is peace and paradise under the Southeast Asian sky. There exists an Indonesia still dominated by ancestral fear. Cities where healing and revenge depend on witches and healers. Islands where magic dolls determine life or death. Communities where bloody rituals guarantee rain, love, or the death of rivals. And this dark side mixes with daily life. University students seek amulets to pass exams, and businessmen sacrifice animals, or more than that, for prosperity and protection. Today, we're going to take you on a journey through the darkest mysteries of Indonesian spirituality. We'll reveal secret cults, forbidden ceremonies, demonic entities, and practices that transform the search for the divine into a dangerous journey between tradition and terror. Number 1. Kedekatan and Ilmu Hitam, the black magic that controls destinies. The term Ilmu Hitam, literally black knowledge, is used in Indonesia to define a vast range of practices from simple love and prosperity spells to destruction magic, death, possession, and spiritual torture. This is not medieval superstition. It's estimated that millions of Indonesians routinely resort to dukuan, shamans/sorcerers, to solve everyday problems or seek revenge. Among the most feared rituals is santet, a black magic executed by sorcerers usually hired to destroy adversaries, causing incurable diseases, economic ruin, or slow death. The dukuan uses handmade dolls, secretly collected hair strands and nails from the victim, cemetery earth, menstrual blood, and other ingredients. The dolls are pierced, burned, buried near the target's house, or thrown into the sea. Many victims report suddenly falling ill after being targeted by santet. Symptoms like vomiting, fever, delirium, mysterious wounds, or even death. In the interior of Java, Bali, and Sumatra, real cases of persecution for black magic often end in tragedy. There are recent reports of entire villages expelling families accused of practicing Ilmu Hitam, collective aggressions and public executions, in which supposed witches are killed, all recorded in videos openly shared on local social networks. Kedekatan rituals, in turn, involve pacts with local spiritual entities, known as lelembut, genderuwo, hairy demons from Java, and tuyul, children spirits that steal money for their human masters. The pacts include regular offerings of food, barnyard animal blood, cigarettes, and in extreme cases, human blood extracted for voluntary cuts by the devotee or forced third parties. Indonesian authorities frequently publish campaigns to fight against superstitions, but in moments of crisis, crop plagues, unexplainable disease outbreaks, mysterious disappearances, entire populations still resort to forbidden rituals to try to calm the invisible powers that govern forests, seas, and cemeteries. Have you ever imagined living in a country where paying a sorcerer could be more efficient and dangerous than calling the police? Leave your comment and share if you would have the courage to face the consequences of ancestral magic. After Ilmu Hitam rituals, it's common for paranoia to set in. People isolate themselves socially, avoid going out at night, distrust relatives, develop insomnia, mental disorders, and even psychotic episodes. Fear of spiritual revenge marks daily life, and everyone knows someone who died by magic. The Dukuin themselves affirm, everything can be bought: love, wealth, death, if the price is paid and the sacrifice is accepted by the spirits. Not for nothing do highly respected professionals from politics, business, and even police maintain their private sorcerers in total secrecy. Number 2. The Islam of Shadows, Radical Sects, and Sacred Terror. Although Indonesia is predominantly Sunni Muslim, coexistence with ancient animist cults has shaped an original Islam, at once devout and permeable to mysterious influences. But not all syncretism leads to tolerance. In recent decades, the country has seen the flourishing of radical Islamic sects that use extreme spirituality to justify violence. Groups like Jamaah Islamiyah and Mujahidin Indonesia Timur organize bloody attacks, like the Bali attack that killed 202 people in 2002, and still operate in hidden cells, with ramifications both in jungles and urban centers. Their doctrine mixes Quranic literalism, apocalyptic interpretation, and secret rituals, including spiritual baths, psychological torture for purity, testing, and ritual oaths of eternal loyalty. Converts are subjected to rigorous fasting, sensory deprivation, uninterrupted recitation of Quranic verses, plus painful physical tests to prove faith. Often, children and adolescents are captured for intense indoctrination, suicide bomber formation, and training for divine missions. Fear spreads. Mosques, schools, and community organizations need to constantly monitor signs of these sects' influence. Families live under the threat of ostracism, persecution, or spiritual retaliation if they denounce or resist. Radical exorcism rituals have been documented. Nighttime sessions involving whippings, screaming, and death threats to expel infidel influences from rebellious youth. Cases of physical and psychological torture end up covered by leadership or end in avoidable tragedies. If this type of fanaticism shocked you, comment and share so the world knows that not every paradise is peaceful. In the next minutes, you'll learn about the hidden sacrifices, human and animal, of Bali festivals, demonic possessions and supernatural phenomena in remote villages, the black market for magical artifacts, and the consequences of death rituals and spiritual corruption in Indonesia's religious universe. Don't miss the continuation. Prepare to dive into the darkest side of the Enchanted Islands. Number 3. Sacrifices in Bali, the hidden side of sacred rituals. When the world thinks of Bali, it imagines temples floating over lakes, colorful offerings, barong dance, and nyepi celebrations, the famous Day of Silence. Few tourists witness or even hear about the hidden face of Balinese rituals, bloody sacrifices, ceremonies to appease furious gods, and practices dating back to the time of priest kings, even before Islam's arrival. In interior villages, festivals like Naban, traditional cremation, or Malasti and Pikurin, rites, world purification, include regular animal sacrifices, roosters, pigs, buffalo, dogs, to feed demons and ancestors, ensuring the living don't suffer retaliation from the dead. Blood is spread on temple portals or poured into sacred rivers with prayers invoking protection and prosperity. Local sources report that in times of disaster, extreme drought, or disease outbreaks, tradition can go beyond. There are taboo stories about the Trinian, people on the slopes of Mount Batur, who perform secret human offerings, burying bodies of chosen ones, with ancestral rituals to calm spirits that provoke earthquakes and eruptions. Children born with congenital defects and elderly without families were, according to certain reports, selected to become intermediaries between living and dead. Even in lively tourist festivals, large-scale sacrifices are hidden from foreigners. Balinese understand that contact with blood is dangerous for those who don't possess protection, and the karma of rituals would fall upon those who witnessed without spiritual preparation. Did you believe that behind the selfies and flowers, there was such a dark universe? What would you think passing through a temple gate, bathed in ritualistic blood? Comment. The pressure on participants is intense, refusing to make blood offerings, or worse, questioning the balance between sacrifice and harmony, can result in community persecution, family isolation, and belief that the entire lineage will be cursed for generations. In recent years, NGOs try to convince Balinese authorities to limit practices with animal suffering, but most claim that without traditional rituals, the island's cosmic balance would be destroyed, bringing tragedies upon the people. The secret is maintained, far from world eyes. Would you live in a country where demonic possessions are accepted as medical reality and treated by specialized professionals? Leave in the comments what you think about this coexistence between modernity and supernaturalism. Onisuki, ogre demon possession, transforms normal people into violent predators who develop literal thirst for human blood, physical strength that allows breaking bones with bare hands, and pain resistance that makes them almost impossible to physically contain. Japanese psychiatric hospitals maintain special wings for these cases, where treatment combines Western medication with traditional rituals. Modern exorcists operate officially registered clinics where they charge between $5,000 and $50,000 for treatments that include spiritual diagnosis through traditional methods, negotiation with entities through specialized mediums, and expulsion rituals that may include animal sacrifices, offerings of sake, food and money, and ceremonies lasting entire days. Number 5. Suicide cults, sects of collective death. Japan has a unique history of collective suicides organized by religious sects that combine traditional Bushido with modern apocalyptic doctrines, resulting in tragedies that have killed hundreds over the decades through methods ranging from mass poisoning to ritual fires where members voluntarily lock themselves in to die purified by sacred fire. Omu Shinsengumi, a sect separate from Aum Shinrikyo, organized collective suicide of 47 members in 1995 through carbon monoxide inhalation in a sealed chamber. After a purification ritual lasting 72 hours, including total fasting, uninterrupted chanting, and consumption of psychoactive substances presented as medicine for dimensional transition. The philosophy of spiritual graduation taught by these sects presents physical death as graduation to higher levels of existence, where enlightened souls escape the reincarnation cycle through ritual suicide performed in groups during specific astrological moments that supposedly open portals to divine dimensions. Ritual preparation for collective suicides includes weeks of fasting to purify the physical body, intensive meditations that induce dissociative states, writing farewell letters following specific formats that explain the choice as spiritual evolution, and distribution of material possessions as demonstration of detachment from the physical world. Methods used include poisoning with chemical substances mixed in sacred drinks, asphyxiation by gases in sealed environments during ceremonies combining chants with gradual oxygen deprivation, collective drowning in lakes or rivers considered spiritually significant, and ritual fires where groups lock themselves in buildings that are burned as funeral temples. Survivors of these cults frequently develop post-traumatic stress disorder, extreme paranoia, and difficulty with social readaptation due to years of psychological conditioning that prepared them to see death as the supreme spiritual goal instead of a tragedy to be avoided. Number 6. Shinto necromancy, communication with vengeful dead. Modern Shintoism includes necromancy practices performed by specialized priests, kanushi, who communicate with spirits of the dead through rituals that combine millennial traditions with techniques developed specifically to deal with yurei, vengeful ghosts, that haunt contemporary Japan due to traumatic deaths, unresolved suicides, and executions during historical periods of extreme violence. Specialized temples like Zenkoji and Nagano maintain altars dedicated exclusively to restless spirits, where families pay thousands of dollars for rituals that supposedly appease the dead who have returned to torment the living. These rituals include offerings of the deceased's favorite food, personal objects burned as gifts for the other dimension, and direct communication through mediums who enter trances. Yurei Matsuri, ghost festivals, held annually throughout Japan, are not just folkloric celebrations, but events where the dead supposedly physically return to the world of the living to resolve pending issues. During these festivals, hundreds of people report sightings, direct communication with dead relatives, and paranormal experiences that include temporary possession by specific spirits. The exorcism industry moves billions of yen annually through priests, mediums, and specialists in spiritual cleansing, who offer services to families tormented by paranormal activity. These professionals maintain client lists, specialize in specific types of hauntings, and frequently work with real estate agencies to clean properties before sale. There are tribes in Papua, West Papua and Kalimantan, where ritualized suicides are accepted as a method to send a soul to protect the village, avenge enemies, or spare the lineage from diseases and misfortunes considered karmic. Recent studies show that pressure for social sacrifice and the belief that mental illness is always caused by possession prevents cases of depression and psychiatric disorders from receiving any medical attention. They also show how suicides are dressed as heroism in traditional villages. Would you accept killing yourself to free your family from an ancestral curse, or offer a sick family member to save the entire village? Share your feelings about this taboo topic. The cycle of bloody rituals, pressures, guilt, and superstition perpetuates traumas that cross generations and challenges all social and scientific progress. Comment, share, prepare for the closure of this incredible but also macabre country. The mystical journey is about to reveal its deepest secrets. Number 8. Cultural resistance. The search for spirituality without terror. Despite the weight of myths, violent rituals, and dark traditions, Indonesia pulses with movements of spiritual renewal, social criticism, and rescue of healthy ancestral practices. Progressive religious leaders, artists, women, and youth from big cities increasingly challenge the use of magic to oppress, frighten, and perpetuate cycles of guilt and violence. In Bali, priests and NGOs fight to transform bloody festivals, encouraging floral offerings, music, and dance ceremonies as symbolic substitution for blood sacrifices. New generations seek meaning in local yoga, meditation, and ecological rituals, never denying the strength of ancestors, but rejecting the need for pain to appease gods. In Java's interior, teachers publicly denounce cases of spiritual abuse and defend scientific education in schools, explaining phenomena previously treated as possession or spiritual punishment. Psychologists, psychiatrists, and activists challenge the narrative that all mental illness is curse, promoting public health and welcoming victims of mental disorders. Reports show young ex-sorcerers and ex-dukuan opening up about fraud, manipulation, and risks of dark pacts, warning against charlatanism. Urban cultural fairs in Jakarta and banding promote folklore as art and identity, separating it from fear and superstition. Do you believe that knowledge and science can liberate societies from ancestral terror? Or is spirituality an inseparable part of people's deep identity? Leave your comment and reflect on how far to go in transforming traditions. Number 9. Women on the front line, witches, leadership, and liberation. If in past centuries women were burned or excluded for suspicion of witchcraft, today many renewal movements are led by them. Balinese priestesses, the Pemangka Perempuan, conquer territory, defending peaceful rituals and inclusion of women as legitimate guardians of the sacred. In Islamic communities, scholars reinterpret Quran passages to combat the use of spiritual terror. In Christian areas of East Timor and Moluccas, female pastors and catechists fight against abuse by priests and pastors, organizing public denunciations and welcoming victims. Among tribes and minorities, mothers rise against child marriages, mutilations, and ritualistic sacrifices, often paying with ostracism, threats, and all kinds of hidden retaliation. The price of spiritual freedom is still high, but the movement of those who resist grows. Number 10. Modern movements, from syncretism to mystical disobedience. Cities like Jakarta, Surabaya, and Denpasar see the flourishing of syncretic and alternative movements, communities that mix practices from various religions. Reformed Buddhism, progressive Sufism, charismatic churches, vegetarian cults, and even secular groups studying local mythology as a self-knowledge tool. Internet access expands debate. Young people exchange reports of supernatural experiences, seek Western therapy, question spiritual authority figures, denounce charlatanism, and discuss the limits between faith, tradition, and oppression. Cultural projects supported by NGOs document legends, value music, painting, and traditional theater, not as instruments of fear, but as memory and art for all. Universities finally study in depth the impact of witchcraft, intergenerational trauma, and propose public policies to face the invisible weight of these stories on health and education. Number 11. Reinterpretation of spirits, from monsters to guardians. The cultural rescue movement also involves reinterpreting the demons and ghosts themselves. Artists, writers, and filmmakers explore the mythology of Pocong, Kuntilanak, and genderuwo, transforming them into allegories to deal with present fears: corruption, domestic violence, inequality, and ignorance. Children learn in schools that fear can be understood, discussed, and even overcome. That monsters cannot govern a free nation. Series, films, and comics produce a new urban mythology, where heroines face sorcerers not with violence, but with wisdom, justice, and compassion. And you, do you believe it's possible to make peace with the ghosts of the past? Or would it be necessary to destroy everything for light to win in the end? Number 12. The Journey to Light, the future of Indonesian spirituality. The 21st century presents Indonesia with a dilemma: maintain millennial traditions with all their mysteries and terrors, or radically reinvent itself to free itself from fear and spiritual oppression. The answer, once again, is not simple. Black magic and the horror market continue active in the shadows. Perhaps not every violent ritual will end, nor will all traumas heal in one generation. But the movement for transparency, science, respect for human dignity grows everywhere, from temples to urban centers, from villages to digital media. The generation connected to cell phones challenges sorcerers and priests, questions laws and customs, and wants to transform even death into a dignified rite of passage, full of art, respect, and meaning, and no longer panic, blood, and submission. What would you take from Indonesian spirituality? The richness of symbols and stories, or the weight of fear and ancestral shadows? Comment, share. Don't let the secrets of this people vibrate only in the walls of silence. Final reflection: when faith is light or prison? After descending to the abysses of magic, fanaticism, and bloody rituals, only one question remains: what spirituality do we want for the modern world? That which liberates, heals, and makes flourish? Or that which imprisons minds and bodies in a network of invisible terror, repeating pains and deaths that could have stayed in the past? Indonesia offers not only dream landscapes or spectacular festivals, it also offers a hard lesson for all societies. How far does the price of believing blindly go, accepting dogmas, denying science, or sacrificing the new for the old? Let each choose what magic they wish to evoke, that of fear or that of rebirth. If this journey made you reflect, don't keep it to yourself. Share, debate, pass the word forward. For spiritual freedom, for respect for life, and so that no dark secret remains hidden forever. Thank you very much for following along. And until the next journey through the labyrinths of the human soul.